She told me she was crashing at the office. Turns out her office had a wine list and a guy named Logan. So I built a divorce case in silence, and now she's jobless, dumped, and living with her parents again. Hey Reddit, so I've been sitting on this story for a while. It's one of those situations where you think you've seen every kind of betrayal until life decides to hand you a new flavor. I'm not here for pity or sympathy. I just want to share how I handled something most people would have blown up over. Let's just say patience turned out to be the sharpest weapon I had. Felix, 42 male, has been married for 8 years, no kids, just a house, a dog, and a mostly calm routine. My wife, Claire, works as an accountant for a mid-sized company downtown. She's always been organized to a fault, the type to make spreadsheets for grocery lists. Me? I'm more the figure it out when it happens kind of guy. It worked. Or at least, it used to. Lately, something had shifted. Hard to explain, but you can feel it when someone starts fading from the relationship. She wasn't cruel, just distracted, distant. We'd be sitting on the couch and I'd say something funny, and she'd give that delayed half-smile people give when they're not really listening. Then there were the work stories, mostly revolving around one guy, Logan. Apparently, Logan was her new supervisor. She talked about him like he was some kind of office hero. Logan's really good at handling pressure. Logan stayed late to help my coworker with the reports. If I had $1 for every time she said his name, I could have paid off our mortgage. That Wednesday, I got a text around 6:20 p.m. while wrapping up some stuff at my own office. We're doing end-of-quarter reports. Might crash at the office. I read it twice. Something about that message didn't sit right. Claire hates staying late. She's the kind of person who starts packing up at 4:58. Plus, we had dinner plans. Nothing fancy, just sushi and some dumb Netflix show we both liked. She knew I was looking forward to it. I stared at the message a few seconds, debating whether to respond. My gut was already talking, and my gut's usually right. Still, I typed back something casual, just to see what she'd do. Hope you and Logan enjoy those thrilling reports. I smirked when I sent it. Just a little jab, enough to get a reaction, but not enough to sound serious. It didn't even take a full minute before my phone started ringing. Hey, she said, voice a little too bright. You're funny. Why would you say that? You mentioned Logan like 20 times this week, I said, leaning back in my chair. Figured he'd be pulling the same late shift. There was a pause, just long enough for me to hear that tiny breath people take when they're scrambling to come up with something believable. Oh, no, she said quickly. He's not even here today. I think he's working from home or something. Ah, got it. You're just the one stuck doing reports, huh? Yeah, she laughed nervously. You know how it is. I don't, I said. We finished our reports last week. Silence. Then a cough. Well, every company's different. Sure, I said, pretending not to care. Anyway, don't work too hard. We hung up, and I just sat there staring at my phone. Something was off. The tone of her voice wasn't normal. Higher, tense, like someone talking while checking the door every few seconds. Thing is, Claire's always been a bad liar. When we first started dating, she couldn't even pretend to like a movie without me catching it. So when she tried to sound casual now, it came off as fake, like she was acting for someone else in the room. I leaned back, thinking. End of quarter reports? She never mentioned those. Might crash at the office? She's never spent the night at work in her life. I could have confronted her right then, asked for a photo of her desk, a call on video, something. But that's what emotional guys do. They react. I'm not that guy. I don't raise my voice. I don't argue. I observe. The truth always walks out eventually. I just prefer to open the door quietly when it does. So instead of calling her bluff, I played the longer game. I logged into our shared mobile plan and checked the old family locator feature we'd used on trips. She must have forgotten it was still active. As I clicked through the settings, a part of me already knew what I'd find. When someone starts pulling away, their patterns change. Not just emotionally, but physically. New routes, new schedules, new excuses. I told myself I might be overthinking it. Maybe she really was stuck working late. Maybe her supervisor just had bad timing being named Logan. Maybe it was all innocent. But deep down, I didn't believe that. Still, I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was focused. Because here's the thing. If this was a girlfriend situation, I'd have packed my stuff and walked out without a second thought. But marriage? Marriage is paperwork, property, joint accounts, taxes. You can't just slam the door and disappear. You need proof, real proof, if you want a clean break and not a courtroom circus. So that night, while she was working, I opened my laptop, poured myself a glass of water, and started watching the little blue dot that represented her phone. It wasn't at her office. And just like that, I knew my quiet little investigation had officially begun. 2. Her location pinged at Red Lantern, a high-end Asian fusion place across town. The kind with valet parking, dim lighting, and sushi rolls that cost as much as a tank of gas. I just stared at it for a second, zooming in on the map to make sure my eyes weren't playing tricks. Nope. Red Lantern. Definitely not her office. Definitely not Excel sheets and report deadlines. She texted me an hour later, all casual. Still working on this report. So tired. Might just nap in the break room after. Yeah, sure. The break room, with imported sake and $40 shrimp tempura, apparently. I didn't respond. I wanted her to think I bought it. I just sat there on the couch, scrolling through Netflix while her little GPS dot stayed glued to that restaurant for over 2 hours. Then it moved toward the hotel district before heading home. That part stung a bit, but I kept my face blank. No yelling, no calling, no accusations. She'd already dug her own hole. I was just watching from the edge with a flashlight. By the time she finally walked through the door, it was past 10. She looked startled to see me awake. "Oh, you're still up?" she said, fumbling with her purse. "Yeah," I said. "Figured I'd wait for my wife since we didn't get dinner together." She gave this awkward little laugh and started rambling before I even asked anything. "Sorry, the report software crashed halfway through. Total nightmare. I had to redo everything." I nodded slowly. "Huh, that sucks." "Yeah," she said quickly, like she was trying to fill the silence. "And then the internet was acting up, so we had to use a backup system. It was just, ugh." I looked at her the whole time she was talking. The red flush on her cheeks, the faint smell of perfume she doesn't even own, and something else underneath it. Soy and sesame, maybe? Not exactly the scent of hard work. She noticed I was staring and added, "You know how stressful these end-of-quarter reports get." "Yeah," I said, keeping my tone light. "I bet the stress tastes delicious." Her head tilted. "What?" "Nothing," I said with a smile. "You hungry?" She shook her head too fast. "No, I had a snack earlier." She walked off to the bathroom, mumbling about how tired she was. When she passed, I caught a whiff of something fancy. Not her usual floral body spray. This was heavier, like one of those expensive perfumes that people only wear when they're trying to impress someone. I sat there watching her disappear down the hall, and it almost felt funny. Like watching a really bad movie where the actress thinks she's nailing her role but keeps forgetting her lines. The difference was, this actress was my wife, and the movie was my life. She came out of the shower later in pajamas, pretending to yawn. "You're quiet tonight." "Just tired," I said. "You sure? You look, I don't know, suspicious or something." I almost laughed. Suspicious or something. What a dumb thing to say when you're the one lying. "Suspicious?" I repeated. "No. Just trying to process the emotional roller coaster of your report software crashing." She gave me this little fake smile, the kind people give when they're not sure if you're joking. "Right. Well, I'm going to bed. You should too." "Yeah," I said. "Right behind you." But I didn't go right behind her. I waited until her light went off, then grabbed my phone. I opened up Logan's social media. He'd accepted my follow request months ago back when everything was normal. He didn't post much, but that night, he did. A blurry photo of a dinner table. Dim red lighting. Half-empty wine glasses. 2 plates. One with sushi, one with something that looked like grilled salmon. And in the corner of the frame, just barely visible, was the edge of a bracelet I recognized. Claire's bracelet. The caption read, "Nothing like unwinding after a long day at work. Number Red Lantern. Number Good Company." The post had been up for 20 minutes. I stared at it for a while, not angry, just calculating. This wasn't guessing anymore. This was a breadcrumb trail with timestamps and GPS coordinates. So I did what any calm, rational husband would do. Took a screenshot, saved it in a folder labeled Work Stuff, because let's be honest, she'd never open that, and turned off my phone. Then I just sat there for a while, thinking, if this had been a girlfriend, she'd already be blocked, and her stuff would be on the curb. But a wife? That's different. Marriage is basically a legal contract with emotions stapled on. You don't tear that up without planning the aftermath. Divorce isn't just goodbye. It's lawyers, assets, documentation. And I wasn't about to walk into that fight with just a gut feeling and sarcasm. I needed proof. Unshakable proof. So I decided right then, I wouldn't confront her. Not yet. I'd let her keep digging. Let her get comfortable, confident, maybe even a little careless. Because people who lie start repeating themselves eventually. They forget the details they made up. And when that happens, I'd be ready. She came out of the bedroom a few minutes later, looking half asleep. "You coming?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, standing up and smiling faintly. Just finishing something up. She nodded and walked away, probably thinking she'd sold her performance. As soon as she disappeared down the hall, I whispered to myself, yeah, finish something up. My investigation had just moved from theory to evidence. 3. Now I was in the let's see how far she'll dig herself phase. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. I wanted to watch her lie to my face while I already knew the truth. There's a certain satisfaction in that, like knowing the end of a movie and still pretending to be surprised. The next morning, she was all smiles. Making coffee, humming like life was perfect. I played along. How's that big project going? I asked casually while scrolling through my phone. She looked up. What project? You know, the one you were working late on. The one with Logan. She froze for a second. It was small, but I saw it. A tiny hesitation, like her brain was flipping through excuses. Oh, that one. Yeah, still going. Logan's, still leading it. I nodded like it was the most boring conversation ever. He must really love those reports if you're pulling all-nighters. Her face tightened just slightly. Are you implying something? Not at all, I said, sipping coffee. Just sounds like he's really hands-on. She gave this short, fake laugh. You're being ridiculous. It's just work. Yeah, of course. I smirked and went back to my phone. Just asking. She stood there glaring at me, waiting for me to push further. When I didn't, she got defensive out of nowhere. You know, lately you've been acting weird. Snooping, asking questions like I'm under investigation. What's going on with you? I almost laughed. Classic move. Flip the script. I'm just asking about your job, I said. Pretty normal husband stuff. No, it's not, she snapped. You're paranoid. You don't trust me anymore. There it was. The victim card. Like she was the one being wronged here. I didn't react. I just looked at her for a few seconds, calm and silent. That kind of quiet makes people nervous. She started fidgeting, like she wasn't sure if she should keep yelling or back off. Finally, I said softly, You're right. Maybe I am being paranoid. I'm sorry. Her shoulders relaxed immediately. Thank you, she said, pretending to be magnanimous. I just don't want you turning into one of those controlling husbands. I almost snorted. Yeah, the guy who works, pays the bills, and doesn't check your phone until you start lying is super controlling. But I kept my mouth shut and kissed her on the forehead. You're right, I said again. I'll chill out. She smiled, thinking she'd won. That's the thing about people like her. They're addicted to being right. Once you let them think they are, they stop watching their back. The next day, I decided to test how deep the lie went. I called her office around noon, pretending to be from a delivery service. Hey, this is for Claire, I said. Just checking if she's available. The receptionist hesitated. Claire? Oh, she's not in today. Not in? I asked, feigning surprise. She said she was working on the quarterly report. She wasn't scheduled to work late this week, the receptionist said. She mentioned taking a few personal days. Personal days. That was new. I thanked her and hung up, smiling. So she was now on personal days. Translation: date nights with Logan. I had a lunch break coming up, so I drove to Red Lantern. The place looked even more expensive in daylight. Glass walls, polished wood interior, waiters in black shirts with earpieces like it was the CIA of sushi joints. I walked in like I belonged there. Hey, I said to the hostess, smiling politely. I came in last week with my wife and was wondering about the table we had, trying to remember the number. She tilted her head, thinking, What day? Wednesday evening. Oh, her face lit up. You mean the couple who ordered the omakase and asked the chef for a Polaroid, right? She had a silver bracelet. That clicked instantly. Yeah, that's the one, I said, keeping my tone even. They seemed like they were celebrating something, she added with a polite smile. Right, I said. Thanks. That helps a lot. She smiled again, probably thinking she'd just helped me remember a nice night. I thanked her and walked out, biting back a laugh. My wife was apparently celebrating her promotion with Logan at Red Lantern, the same night she texted me about working late. By the time I got back to my car, the whole picture was pretty clear. She wasn't just cheating. She was confident about it. She thought I was too trusting to ever check, too calm to question her, too dumb to connect the dots. That's when the anger finally tried to crawl up, but I shoved it down. This wasn't about emotions anymore. This was logistics, proof, timing, strategy. I pulled out my phone and texted my lawyer. Hey, quick question. If someone suspects infidelity but doesn't have full proof yet, what's the smartest first step legally? He called me back 10 minutes later. He's a friend, not the cheap kind, but the effective kind. I gave him a vague version of events. He told me to keep collecting evidence. Pictures, screenshots, bank transactions, texts, anything that shows patterns. He reminded me, proof of consistent deception holds up stronger than a single photo. I thanked him and ended the call. I sat there in the car for a few minutes, watching people walk in and out of Red Lantern with their overpriced lunch specials. Most of them were probably innocent, coworkers, friends, couples. But I couldn't help wondering how many of them were lying too. When I drove home that evening, she was already there, scrolling through her phone on the couch like nothing happened. She looked up and smiled. "Hey, how was your day?" I smiled back. "Productive." She nodded, not catching the tone. "Good." And while she was there, pretending everything was fine, I sat across from her thinking about the growing folder on my laptop labeled Documents. My lawyer said to build a case, so that's what I was going to do. Methodically, calmly, and with receipts. 4. When you've been married long enough, you learn your partner's habits better than your own. Claire's laundry routine was sacred. Saturdays, early morning, before breakfast, she'd throw everything in the basket like she was in a race. This time, I offered to help, pretending I was being thoughtful. "Wow," she said, looking suspicious. "You're volunteering for laundry?" "Trying to be a good husband," I said with a grin. We carried the laundry baskets to the utility room. Hers was full of gym clothes, work outfits, and the tote bag she takes everywhere. She called it her all-purpose bag, but lately, it looked more like her excuse storage. When she stepped out to grab detergent, something slipped from the side pocket. A folded piece of paper or photo, couldn't tell. It slid behind the dryer. I caught a glimpse of the corner before she came back in. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said casually. "Just almost dropped a sock." She nodded and turned back around. I made a mental note of exactly where it fell. Later that morning, after she left for her yoga class, I went back in. I moved the dryer a few inches and there it was. A Polaroid photo, slightly bent, tucked under some lint. I didn't touch it right away, just stared at it for a few seconds, because I already knew what I was about to see wasn't going to be good. When I finally picked it up, my jaw tightened. It was her and Logan sitting at Red Lantern. She was laughing, holding a drink in her hand. His arm was on the table, close enough that their fingers were practically touching. She looked genuinely happy, happier than she'd looked around me in months. And on the back, written in black marker, were the words, "Forever and ever, L." There was a timestamp printed along the Polaroid's edge. Same Wednesday, I watched her dot drift into the hotel district. That little heart almost made me laugh. Logan, the corporate charmer, writing love notes like a teenager. Real romantic. I took out my phone, snapped a clear photo of both sides, then carefully slid it back into the same side pocket of her tote, right where it must have fallen from. Couldn't risk her knowing I'd seen it. She'd just get better at hiding things. I stood there staring at the wall for a minute, breathing slow. I wasn't the kind of guy who punched walls or broke things. I'd seen enough men do that. All it does is prove you lost control. I wasn't divorcing her angry. I was divorcing her prepared. That photo changed everything. Before, I had suspicion and circumstantial proof. Now I had tangible evidence. A time-stamped physical piece of her affair. And that stupid little heart made it impossible for her to claim it was just a misunderstanding. I spent the next few hours digging deeper. If Logan wanted to play house with my wife, I wanted to know exactly who he was. His LinkedIn, Instagram, and work profiles were easy to find. I'd already looked before, but this time I started paying attention to the background. The small things. That's when I saw it. A tagged post from a woman named Eleanor. Her bio read, "Fiancé to my best friend Logan counting down the days." Well, look at that. I clicked her profile. Dozens of engagement photos. Logan in a suit, grinning like an idiot. Claire probably hadn't seen those. Or worse, she had, and didn't care. Either way, I took screenshots of everything. Him, her, the captions, the tags. I sat back in my chair for a minute, staring at the screen. The whole thing was almost funny. My wife cheating with a guy who was already engaged. Both of them lying through their teeth, thinking they were special. Meanwhile, I was quietly turning into their worst nightmare with a Wi-Fi connection. That afternoon, she came home from her so-called yoga class wearing different perfume again. Something musky. The kind that doesn't belong in a yoga studio. "How was class?" I asked, not looking up from my laptop. "Good," she said quickly. "Lots of stretching today." "Yeah, I bet," I said under my breath. "What?" "Nothing. Just glad you're taking care of yourself." She smiled, relaxed again. That's the thing about people who lie. Once they think you're back under control, they go back to being careless. Later that night, she sat next to me on the couch while scrolling through her phone. She looked over and said, "You've been quiet lately. Everything okay?" "Yeah," I said. Just thinking. About what? Life. Taxes. You know? Reports. She smirked. You're weird. Yeah, I said, turning back to the TV. But at least I'm honest. She didn't catch it. She never does. She had no idea that both her little fantasy worlds were about to collide, one in court and one at the altar. And the best part? I wouldn't have to raise my voice once. 5. That was the beauty of it. I didn't need to scream or throw a fit. So I started acting normal. Actually, better than normal. I made breakfast for her, texted her at lunch, even complimented her outfits again. She bought it instantly. It's incredible how fast guilty people relax the second they think you've stopped looking. She'd smile when she got home now. The fake kind of smile that says, he still doesn't know. She thought she was winning. One evening while we were having dinner, I threw in a casual line. Hey, funny thing. My company just updated their HR policies. They added a whole section about workplace relationships. Wild, huh? Her fork froze midair. Oh? Yeah, I said, keeping my tone light. Guess too many people were getting hands-on with their coworkers? She laughed nervously. That's ridiculous. People at work are adults. They can control themselves. Yeah, I said. You'd hope so. I went back to eating like I hadn't just made her flinch. That night, she was quieter than usual, probably wondering how much I knew. That's the best part about subtle pressure. They start unraveling on their own. When she fell asleep, I sat in my office and opened my laptop. I'd made a throwaway email earlier that week, something generic. From there, I found Eleanor's contact on one of her public wedding registry pages. I'd seen her name before, but this time it felt personal. I started typing. Hi, Eleanor. I don't know you, but you need to see this. I believe your fiancé, Logan Thompson, has been having an affair with a coworker named Claire. She works in accounting. Attached are some photos that should make things clear. I attached the Polaroid. I hit send. 10 minutes later, the little notification popped up. Message opened. Then another. Reply received. Oh my God. Thank you. I've had a feeling something was off for months. I knew something wasn't right. She thanked me for my honesty and said she'd handle it. I stared at that last line. I'll handle it, and smiled, because I knew exactly how this was about to go down. But I wasn't done yet. One angry fiancé could cause drama. An HR report, though, that could ruin careers. So the next morning, I went on the company's anonymous tip page. The form was straightforward. Name optional, description required. Employee Logan Thompson, accounting, has been seen having a personal relationship with a direct subordinate. This could be a conflict of interest and should be investigated immediately. I double-checked every word. It was professional, calm, and believable. Exactly what an HR manager would take seriously. I hit submit. Then I waited. The next 2 days were strangely quiet. Claire still acted like everything was fine. Smiling, humming, pretending her world wasn't hanging by a thread. I'd play along, making small talk, and pretending to care about her work stress. But on the 3rd day, the cracks started showing. She came home pale, distracted, scrolling through her phone like she was expecting a bomb to go off. You okay? I asked. Yeah, she said quickly. Just, rough day. The system crashed again. Wow, I said. That system seems to crash a lot whenever Logan's around. She glared at me, but didn't say a word. Just went upstairs. That was the night things really blew up. Around 2 p.m. the next day, I got an email from Eleanor. Short and to the point. It's done. I didn't even have to ask. A few hours later, one of Claire's co-workers, a mutual acquaintance through LinkedIn, posted something vague. Crazy day at the office. HR had to step in. Some people really think rules don't apply to them. I clicked like. From what I later learned, my HR report actually hit their system before Eleanor ever showed up. HR started quietly asking questions that morning. Nothing obvious, just those subtle check-ins managers do when they suspect something's off. Then, around lunchtime, Eleanor arrived. She'd just read my email and came in swinging. Demanded to see Logan. Full public meltdown right in the middle of the accounting floor. He tried to deny everything, but HR was already watching. Her timing basically turned their quiet probe into a full-blown investigation on the spot. The confrontation got messy fast. Yelling, tears, and the engagement ring flying across a desk. Security had to escort her out, and HR immediately called both Logan and Claire in separately afterward. By 5 p.m., the rumor mill was on fire. Everyone knew something major went down, but no one had the full picture, except me. When Claire got home that night, I was sitting on the couch, pretending to scroll through sports news. She looked rattled, hair messy, face pale, hands trembling slightly. She tossed her purse onto the counter and forced a smile. Hey, I said calmly. You're home early. Yeah, she said, trying to sound normal. Something happened at work. Oh yeah, I asked, keeping my tone neutral. Everything okay? Yeah, just office drama. Someone filed some stupid HR complaint about people spreading rumors. Total misunderstanding. Rumors? I repeated. About what? Nothing important. She said it too fast. Just stupid gossip. You know how people are. Yeah, I said slowly. I guess I do. She tried to laugh it off, but her hands were shaking when she poured herself water. She didn't even drink it, just held the glass like a prop. Logan's career was about to implode. Claire's reputation was hanging by a thread, and all I had to do was sit there, silent, calm, and unreadable. She walked upstairs a few minutes later, saying she needed to rest. The second I heard the door close, I smiled. My plan wasn't finished yet, not by a long shot, but I just watched the first domino fall, and it fell exactly how I wanted it to. 6. On Tuesday morning, I saw the first spark hit. Her phone lit up 3 times in a row while she was in the shower. Logan Thompson calling. Then a text. They suspended me. HR's meeting with corporate. Don't call me. I snapped a photo of her lock screen with my phone and dropped it in my evidence folder. She came downstairs 20 minutes later, looking pale and jumpy. She mumbled something about work stuff and pretended to check her email. Her hands were shaking so badly, she dropped the phone once. I watched her scramble to pick it up, acting like the floor had just turned into lava. By the afternoon, I got the update I'd been waiting for. A contact from her company, a guy I'd known from a joint project years back, texted me. Dude, big mess over here. That guy Logan got fired this morning. Apparently admitted to crossing professional lines with someone under him. HR's on a rampage. I thanked him, closed my phone, and just sat there for a moment, grinning. Crossing professional lines. That's corporate language for we caught you being stupid. 2 days later, the inevitable happened. She came home early again, eyes red, holding an envelope from HR. They gave me a choice, she said quietly. Resign or face official termination. Ah, I said, leaning against the counter. So you went with the graceful exit. Her voice broke. They said I violated company conduct. That it's on record. Logan already confessed to everything. Everything? I asked, raising a brow. She nodded, tears welling up. He told them it was mutual. Said I pursued him. I can't believe he'd... I cut her off. Used you for career growth? She froze. What? That's what you were going to say next, right? That Logan used you to get ahead? You know, the same Logan you were sneaking around with for months while pretending to be a loyal wife. She looked at me like she'd seen a ghost. How do you... I've known since the fake conference night, I said calmly. The restaurant, the bracelet, the Polaroid, the emails, all of it. You weren't careful. You just thought I was too dumb to notice. Her knees buckled a little. You've been spying on me? Collecting evidence, I corrected. For this. I walked over to the drawer, pulled out a manila envelope, and dropped it on the table in front of her. She stared at it like it might explode. What is this? Draft petition, I said calmly. Everything's ready to file once I decide to. You can sign now or let the court serve you later. Doesn't make a difference to me. She looked up, shaking her head. You're really doing this? Yeah, I said. I told myself I wouldn't divorce angry. I'd divorce prepared. And here we are. She covered her face, sobbing. Logan lied to me? He said we'd be together? He said he loved me? Yeah, I said, leaning back in my chair. He said the same thing to his fiancée, too. Guess he wasn't great at keeping promises. That shut her up fast. I let her sit there crying while I watched quietly. No yelling, no satisfaction in her breakdown, just calm detachment. She'd built this mess with her own hands. I just made sure the walls came down on schedule. By the next week, Logan's engagement was officially over. Logan's profile vanished a day later. No updates, no likes, no trace of the confident guy with office charisma. Word was he'd been blacklisted in their industry. HR doesn't play around with that kind of thing. As for Claire, her friends suddenly had nothing to say to her. She tried calling a few co-workers. Most didn't pick up. The few who did kept it short. Apparently, nobody wanted to be seen defending the woman who helped get a coworker fired. A few days later, my lawyer confirmed everything was in motion. The divorce would be straightforward, clean, fast, and solid. With all the proof I had, she didn't stand a chance. When I signed the last document, I felt calm. Not happy, not relieved, just certain. The kind of certainty that comes from knowing every decision, every patient step, had been worth it. If it had been a girlfriend, I'd have left the night she lied. But marriage, that required the long run. And the long run had paid off. Now, Logan was jobless. Claire was unemployed, disgraced, and alone. And me? I was free. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't angry, confused, or suspicious. Just done. And honestly, that was better than revenge. That was peace. 6 months later, life felt quiet again, but the good kind of quiet. The kind that doesn't make your stomach twist or your brain overthink every notification sound. My mornings had rhythm again. Gym, coffee, work, peace. No more second guessing. No more overtime texts. No more pretending to be fine while my gut screamed otherwise. People always say time heals everything. But honestly, time didn't heal me. Clarity did. Watching everything crash exactly how it should gave me peace that no apology ever could. Work was solid. I got promoted 2 months after the divorce finalized. My boss said I'd finally looked alive again. Guess he wasn't wrong. When you stop living with a liar, your whole face changes. I started sleeping better, eating better, even laughing again. Genuine laughing, not the polite kind. Meanwhile, Claire was living a completely different movie. Word around her old office was that Logan had ghosted her after losing his job. Apparently, he'd tried freelancing, but no company wanted to touch him after that HR scandal. The guy went from rising star to LinkedIn motivational quote poster in under a month. As for her, she'd moved back in with her parents, lost her savings, burned bridges with coworkers, and didn't have the guts to show her face at company events again. I didn't stalk her. I just heard things through people. Her best friend, the same one who once bragged about Claire finally meeting a real man, meaning Logan, was now dating a guy who used to work under Logan. That's how I found out she was jobless. She's not doing great, the friend had told me once when we accidentally bumped into each other at a cafe. Her parents are worried. She won't leave the house much. Says she can't go anywhere without people staring. I just nodded. That's rough. She waited for me to say more, maybe show some sympathy. But I didn't. Because here's the thing. Claire wasn't a victim of bad luck. She was a victim of her own choices. About a month after that, she started trying to contact me. First through texts from random numbers, always something vague like, "Can we talk?" or "Please just one conversation." I blocked each one. Then came the emails. New accounts every time. Same script. She missed me. She made a mistake. She was in a bad place back then. My favorite one said, "You were the only man who ever truly cared about me." Yeah, no kidding. And that's exactly why she blew it. When she realized I wasn't responding, she escalated. Her mom called one evening while I was cooking. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got me. "Hi, it's Donna," she said, her voice awkwardly polite. "I just wanted to let you know she's not doing well emotionally." I stayed quiet for a few seconds. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said finally. "She talks about you a lot," her mom went on. "I think she regrets everything. She's seeing a counselor now, but I'm glad she's getting help." I cut in gently. "I really am, but I'm not part of that chapter anymore." There was silence. Then a small sigh. "I understand. I just thought maybe you'd want to know." "I do," I said, "and I wish her well. That's all." I hung up before the conversation could turn into nostalgia or guilt tripping, because I'd learned something important. Some people only regret what they lost, not what they did. After that, I stopped answering unknown numbers completely. My peace came first. Life moved on. I met someone new a few months later, a friend of a coworker. She wasn't flashy or dramatic, just grounded. The kind of person who doesn't turn her phone face down every time a message pops up. The divorce didn't ruin me. It refined me. It stripped off the nonsense and left me sharper, calmer, more aware. She lost everything chasing validation from a guy who used her. I gained everything back by sitting still and playing the long game. Looking back now, I realize that every step, every fake smile, every calm answer, every time I bit my tongue, was worth it. If I'd confronted her the night she lied, I'd just be another angry husband with a story no one believes. But because I stayed smart, I walked away clean, with proof, peace, and my head high. Now, when I see her name pop up in spam filters or get a random message request that starts with, "Hey, it's me," I just delete it. No anger, no curiosity, just closure. And honestly, that's the best kind of ending there is. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.